At the same time, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about Ben-Gvir, who is, this man is a convicted terrorist. People like this used to be pushed to the fringe of Israeli society. Now he is an important and influential and powerful part of the Netanyahu coalition. So he went to Yale. There were protests there. He went and spoke at a synagogue in Brooklyn. There were protests there as well. And the pro-Israel counter-protesters turned quite violent. We can put this up on the screen. And in particular, and, just warning, like, this is disturbing. So this is a pro-Palestine woman who, is surrounded by this like mob of counter protesters who are screaming at her and all sorts of, horrible insults and death to Arabs, etc. She's being escorted by police officers, and it was quite a fraught scene. We could put the next one up on the screen. You can see this woman who was assaulted. You can see her on the left there, bloodied and here after receiving some treatment and with her bandages. So this is a pro-Palestine woman who happens to be Jewish, and also Emily happens to be Israeli. And I just have to say, if this was a Jewish Israeli woman who was pro-Israel, who had been viciously assaulted in this way, we would have heard endless media coverage over it. And it would be used to smear the entire pro-Palestine movement as violent anti-Semites. But because she happens to be a pro-Palestine Jewish Israeli woman, we get very, very little mainstream coverage. And certainly it's not used to tar all of the pro-Israel side of the equation as being anti-Semitic or being violent and out of bounds, etc.
Things were getting really wild in Brooklyn last night, and I feel like that hasn't penetrated the media. It's sort of just happening in the background, and people aren't talking about what's happening on the streets of New York. You see it pop up on social media, but am I wrong thinking like the sort of quote unquote mainstream media just isn't really touching this? I don't know why.
Well, I think you do know why. It's because it's uncomfortable. Because so far the violence has been one-sided. And, I don't know what chants were said. There's allegations that some of the pro-Palestine chants were quote unquote anti-Semitic. I just, I need to see some evidence and some proof of that. But rally chants are very different than actual assault and violence. And part of this will help to explain why the media is very reticent to talk about this. You can put Eric Adams up on the screen here saying there's going to be an investigation into this assault. He says the NYPD is investigating a series of incidents stemming from clashing protests on Thursday that began when a group of anti-Israel protesters surrounded the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters, Jewish house of worship. Initial reports indicate one female protester was isolated from her group, harassed by counter-protesters, suffered injuries. In another incident, a second woman was surrounded and subjected to vile threatening by counter-protesters. One arrest was made, several summonses. And he goes on to say that, there's going to be an investigation here and commending the NYPD police officers who were there on the scene. And just from him saying, that there is going to be an investigation into these assaults, there has been a complete freak out. We can see this extremist group, Beitar, that they're the ones that have been like compiling the lists and bragging that the Trump administration is listening to them about which university students should be arrested and detained for their pro-Palestine speech. Anyway, they say, New York has fallen. Jews are unsafe in New York City. We urge all Jews to flee. Pogroms are imminent.
This is why I was saying
I have to say.
I kind of it's surprising to me that there just isn't more, again, quote unquote, mainstream media coverage of this because of posts like that, because it's sort of becoming, it's being used as almost a Rorschach test where the groups like Beitar are saying pogroms are imminent, flee New York City. And what you see is an Israeli supporter of Palestine getting bloodied and punched in the face. It's just bizarre how I guess maybe the right way to put it is the media just doesn't know how to deal with stories like this. It's so, I think it's so lost right now. It's like, it's leading to a complete blind spot where people don't see what's happening on the streets of New York.
Well, let me also make the Glenn Greenwald point, which is, when these students were being rounded up and arrested for writing an op-ed or being a negotiator at a protest or whatever, What I heard from a lot of people on the right who defended this was, if you're a foreigner in this country, you need to zip it, keep your mouth shut, be a good boy or girl. Don't let us know. We don't want to know about your politics. And now you have Ben-Gvir here, who is, obviously a foreigner here in the US, going to Yale, going to Capitol Hill, going to Brooklyn. And again, this man is a convicted terrorist and is out there. You saw the video with him and Medea Benjamin. Like, he's not being shy about, he's not being a good little boy and keeping his views to himself while he's abroad in the United States of America. So, interesting. There's a little bit of a double standard there about who is allowed to aggressively assert their views in whatever form and venue that they care to, even as as he is like the ultimate insider. And if anyone has ever deserved for their visit to be protested, it is that man. He's allowed to do that, no problem. But God forbid you write a student op-ed calling in your university to divest from Israel, then you deserve to be locked up indefinitely and deported from the country.
Yeah, it reminds me of the pushback to Ryan and Sagar's drop site story last week, where people were saying, why is someone on the NSC formerly working for the Israeli Defense Ministry? Why are you upset that she was on the Israeli Defense Ministry, and sort of saying it smacks of anti-Semitism to say that there's anything newsworthy about that? And people going back and being like, well, if it were any other country, we would be allowed to say that's a little bit weird. Is there an espionage connection? Is there a conflict of interest? But it's the one place that if you highlight it, you end up getting accused of fomenting or perpetuating discrimination against Israel. And I was like, someone worked for another country. I mean, it's just like, and is on the National Security Council. So anyway, it reminded me of that point, Krystal.
Yeah, very, very good point on that one. All right, let's go ahead and get to Ben Smith, who broke open this extraordinary internal dynamics of some of these group chats, which have taken off on the right, and the way that they have shaped the current government, and also sort of the fallout as this government has become more unpopular, and especially with regard to tariffs. So let's go ahead and get to that.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.